stop the video there. That's the gas tank. Let's talk about how to fight rising energy costs with the Sega Dreamcast and Test Drive Le Mans. The Sega Dreamcast was released in September of 1999 and did fairly well for its first year in the United States. When I was doing the original Classic Game Room series back in 1999 and 2000, we reviewed numerous Sega Dreamcast games, and it was an incredible game system and still has a lot of fans out there today. The Sega Dreamcast had a lot of exciting games. There were numerous fighting games and driving games and a variety of other arcade-style titles and a whole lot of other unique games that most people in the United States weren't really sure what to make of, like Seaman, for instance, which is kind of a shame because it was incredibly fun to torture that poor fish. Now, the other day when I was filling up my gas tank and it cost me $62, that's about the exact same cost as a brand new video game for one of the next-gen consoles. So obviously, rising gas and energy prices are cutting into everybody's video game spending ability, and that's unfortunate because I'd rather spend money on video games than gasoline. It also costs money to drive places because you have to put gas in your car. So if you want to drive, it's much cheaper to drive in a video game. And if you want a video game that's less expensive than brand new overpriced video games where you're basically covering the marketing and advertising costs of the game as well as the programming, then the Sega Dreamcast is a dream come true. You can buy a used Dreamcast for about $30 or $40, and games like Test Drive Le Mans in particular are ridiculously inexpensive. You can't buy fancy drink coasters for the same cost as a good Sega Dreamcast game. That's how undervalued they are. I picked up this game for $2.50 brand new, unopened, still in the shrink wrap. I actually spent a lot of time with this game back when it came out in November of 2000. And by that point, we had sadly canceled the original Classic Game Room series, and the PlayStation 2 was just released at that time. So this was completely overlooked, in my opinion, and never got the attention that it deserved, because Test Drive Le Mans is an incredible racing game, and there's just something about it that puts it within the same league of games like the Gran Turismo series and the Forza series. It's a totally different kind of game, mind you, but the quality of the tracks that you're driving on, the meticulous detail that they've put into everything, and the competition is very nice. It's an excellent game, and you probably don't believe me, but I love the Gran Turismo series and the Forza games, and I have just as much fun playing Test Drive Le Mans. Sadly, it doesn't have damage, and the game can get pretty competitive with 24 cars on the track at one time. So you're going to drive with a much more physical style than you do in other games like Forza 2 in particular. There's a number of different races, quick races, championship races, and then the 24 hours of Le Mans race, which you can race in either 10 minutes, 30 minutes, 1 hour, 6 hours, or the full 24 hours. And it goes through a full 24 hours, so you start the daytime, it goes through the nighttime, and then you race back into the daytime. And if you win the race, instead of getting money, you get an entire harem of women. And they're very cheerful, they like to wave a lot, and they definitely get a lot of attention if you walk into a bar with all of them at once. That's something that I don't even think Gran Turismo has given you that option. The cockpit camera view in this game is excellent and gives you a real feeling of speed. I personally like the graphics, I like the tracks that they've put into this game, and although I'm not a huge fan of the Sega Dreamcast controller, the cars handle quite well. It's not the same as Gran Turismo or Forza, it has a slightly more arcade feel to it, but not so much so that it ruins the experience of driving. I think what I like most about Test Drive Le Mans is the ability to do the entire 24-hour race. Not necessarily in 24 hours, but even the 30 minutes or 1 hour sped up version of the race, where time moves faster. You just get that sense that you're really driving through the night. And you can see daytime turn into nighttime, the sun sets, and then it rises the next morning. The background visuals and the lighting on the track and the various blinking lights on the barriers and whatnot are very well done. The game has an excellent attention to detail. On the bottom right of the screen, you can see your speed gauge, also your fuel and your tires. You do run out of gas in this game, so you have to pit. The interesting thing about the pit stops in Test Drive Le Mans are that you have an invisible pit crew. You can't see them, but they're there. They change your tires, they fill the gas tank. I think they even clean the window. There's a couple other reasons I think this game generally did not get the attention that it deserved in the United States. For one thing, most Americans couldn't give a rat's ass about the 24 hours of Le Mans, because the cars turn both left and right. As we all know in auto racing, cars can't turn right. Although I don't watch much auto racing, if I did, I would definitely watch races like this. The replays look very nice, and the music in the game in traditional Sega racing game fashion is horrible. You can turn it off and listen to the sound of your car's engine and the roar that the Sega Dreamcast makes itself. That's a loud little machine. That thing gives the Xbox 360 a run for its money when it comes to noise pollution. Another thing they've added into this game is variable weather, which they still haven't put into some of the newer racing games. So you can race in either the sunshine or the wet, or you can set it for varied, where it will actually change during the 24-hour race. If you choose to race the full thing in the real-time 24-hour mode, you can also save your game at pit stops, which is nice. If the numbers 9999 mean something to you, then you already know how cool the Sega Dreamcast is. But if they don't mean anything to you, then you should be watching the original classic Game Room reviews that we made back in 1999 and 2000 and covered dozens of Dreamcast games back when they were brand new. It's a great system. It's a tremendous buy today, great bang for the buck. And since it's not officially a cool retro system yet like the Atari and NES, the systems and the games are very inexpensive and easy to find. If you're not convinced about a Dreamcast, you can join the classicgameroom.net forums and learn all about it. Or just search for Classic Game Room Reviews Seaman, Seaman. And if that doesn't convince you to buy a Sega Dreamcast, nothing will. Everybody always talks about how great and exciting the Wii is, and the PlayStation 3 and the Xbox 360. Well, not one of those game systems has a game that allows you to verbally abuse an animated fish and then starve it of oxygen and eventually kill it by boiling it. And they called it a life simulator. Bitches.